Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Alicia and I'm the owner of Alicia Be Creative. In today's video, we are working on yet another spooky cup, but we are going to use the Nightmare bundle from Baddiee Glitter. Myra came out with the cutest Nightmare Before Christmas bundle, and of course I had to give you a cute cup that you can do with this bundle, or at least with some of the items that came in that bundle. So of course everything I use in today's video will be listed and linked down below, as well as any discount codes that will save you some money, of course. And before you leave, be sure to give today's video a huge thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And that's it. Let's go ahead and jump right into today's tutorial. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and get this cup prepped, but while we're doing that, I did want to show you guys the Nightmare bundle. So it came with the little Jack polymer clays. It also came with 6 glitters, and so I'm showing them here on the screen here so you guys can really get a look at those amazing glitters that are in this bundle. Now, of course, you can buy most of these items individually on Myra's website. Some of them are still available and she will be restocking some. She does restocks every Tuesday for different glitters that are in demand, but these glitter colors are way too cute to pass up. Perfect for those spooky and Halloween cups, and definitely even a couple that I can see using for things other than Halloween or spooky themed designs. So I absolutely love these little pinstripe UV DTF strips, so cute. The decals, and then of course there were 4 vinyl prints in here as well, one of which we are using right now for today's design. So what I've done is, cleaned off my tumbler. This is a 30-ounce double-walled acrylic cup that I got off Amazon forever ago. And I've taken that holographic Jack print and I've just cut that into a triangle section, and we're going to apply this to this tumbler. So I want to make this like a little V-split looking tumbler design for this snow globe cup. So we're going to go ahead and apply the vinyl. Now this is a tapered cup, so I do need to be mindful and remember that this is not going to meet completely straight around the backside. I am going to have like a bit of a curve, but obviously the goal here is just to get that vinyl print onto the tumbler and ensure that there aren't any air bubbles or any wrinkles in the vinyl as I wrap that onto the cup, and make sure that it meets the other side for the most part pretty evenly. Gonna go ahead and remove that tape I used to keep this print stationary, and we're gonna go ahead and get into adding the glitter and the polymer clays. So I am using a hot fix tool that typically is used for rhinestones to drill out the bottom. You could use a hand drill as well. This is a cup though that is not necessarily meant for snow globe tumblers, so you do have to create your own holes on this. So I'm just taking that hot fix tool to really melt through that acrylic plastic there, and once I've gotten all the way through, you'll see that I'm going to end up using my weeding tool to help me pull out that melted plastic that is in the cup here. That way we can fill our cup with our glitter and our polymer clay pieces. We are going to use 2 polymer clays. We're using the Jacks that were part of the Nightmare bundle, and I also had some Sally's that I purchased from another vendor. Myra also does have Sally polymer clay pieces on her website as well, so I'll try and link those down below since the ones that I purchased from that vendor no longer sells items, so of course you wouldn't be able to grab those. So I'm going to do just kind of like filling up kind of that bottom divot in the bottom of the cup with each of the polymer clays, and that's how much I'm going to put into the cup. So we're going to start with the polymer clays since they're the heaviest, and we're going to go ahead and get those applied. I'm just going to go ahead and speed through this section. And so once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and begin to fill this just a little bit before we add our glitter. So I am going to use the suspended solution from Two Moms Craft Shack. I already have this in a bottle that I like to use in order to get that liquid in there. And we're going to go ahead and just do a little bit of that fluid in the bottom. And that's just going to allow the glitter to avoid sticking to that rim at the very top of the cup and ensure that that glitter doesn't clump anything. So putting a little bit of liquid just will help that a little bit. So we're gonna go ahead and start to shovel in our glitter here. This glitter that I'm using out of the Nightmare bundle is called Jack. It is a beautiful mix, but I love that this mix also really makes me think of teacher designs, specifically like a composition notebook design of some sort for a teacher cup. So again, don't feel like when you get those themed glitters from anywhere, even if you're not purchasing your glitters from Baddiee Glitter, that you can't use these for other designs. I think sometimes when we get things in like a bundle that's themed, we kind of get almost like pigeonholed into thinking that's all we can use it from, or kind of just like stuck creatively with what else we can use those glitters for. But these glitters in this bundle really did give me a lot of ideas for other things that I can use it for that is not just spooky designs. So I've gone ahead and I've done about 3 kind of bottomfuls of glitter into this cup with the polymer clays, and I'm just now shaking that around just to make sure that the glitter is not clumping or sticking to everything before we go in and start to fill up the rest of this cup with our solution here. So now that we're going to fill this solution, I'm going to fill it up to as high as I can before it starts to kind of pour out, tilting at an angle to allow the air to escape as best as I can till we get to the top here. So we are going to use a syringe here to try and remove as much air as possible. I will tell you that with this shape cup, it definitely was a bit more difficult than it is in like the glass snow globes, or even like the dupes that most vendors sell. This one was a little bit tough just because of the shape of the bottom and having that indent. So it was a little bit difficult to get my syringe in there, but we're gonna make it happen, and we're gonna do remove as much air as we can. So taking that syringe with that bent tip there, I'm gonna go ahead and fill the bottom sort of indentation with the solution, so that when I insert the syringe into the air bubble, I'm removing air and replacing that air with the solution that's sitting on top here. So that's kind of the idea here. It takes a couple tries. I did have a couple goes at this before I was able to get a good portion of the air out. I wasn't able to get all of the air out, and again, I think that has a lot to do with kind of the shape of this cup. There's not as much space in between the walls as some of the other dupes and things, but I was able to remove as much as I can, and I then just went back and tried to tap the rest of that air out to allow for some more fluid to be in the bottom. So we're going to go ahead and clean this off now, because our solution, of course, is making this very slippery and slick, and we want to be able to seal the bottom of this. So I did try and use a few stoppers that I had from some other dupes, and unfortunately they did not stick very well into this hole made by the hotfix tool. So we're just going to do it the way that I did it before they even came with stoppers. So I'm going to take a little bit of the UV resin here, and I'm just going to kind of surround that hole with the UV resin and give this a good cure of like 30 seconds. Then I'm going to take some painter's tape and cover over that hole to ensure that I have a complete seal over here. That way I then can put a layer of UV resin over top of that painter's tape and the entire bottom to really seal in the bottom. So this is something else that you can use if you don't have like bumpers or stoppers to stick in the holes, they don't fit, or maybe you just don't prefer the bumpers and stoppers, because I do find that some people, you know, accidentally push them in too far and they get into the cup, and then it's just a pain in the butt to get them out. You don't always have to use this. You can use something like resin tape, which then you could apply, which is like a clear tape over top and then resin over top of that. I'm using what I have, and what I have is painter's tape, so that's what we're going to use. So I did one initial cure over the painter's tape. Now we're going to take a bit more UV resin, and I'm going to take my gloved hand and just spread a thin layer over the top. This is really just going to seal in the entire bottom completely. I feel pretty confident now about this, that there isn't going to be any leaks. And every time I seal, I shake it and just make sure that there isn't any area where there might be any of that solution leaking out of the bottom there. So this is all sealed up after a few passes under the UV lamp. Now we're going to go in and add our UV DTF striping and our decals. So the bundle came with these super cute UV DTF pin striping strips that are match perfectly and go completely with the Nightmare Before Christmas theme, which I love. I am going to cut out the 2 of the sort of Jack costume looking ones and use those to put on the V of the V-split of this vinyl that we already have applied. So I'm just going to apply it just like a regular UV DTF. So I'm just going to start at one end and just sort of smooth and put that little strip of UV DTF directly on the cup. over that vinyl and also over the tumbler all together until I get to that top corner, and then I'll go ahead and remove the transfer sheet on top, and we'll do the exact same thing with the other side. Really simple and easy to use. Now do remember that with UV DTF, it is something that you have to commit to. It's not like a vinyl where sometimes you can get away with pulling that image back up. So just make sure that wherever you're going to stick this down, this is going to remain and stay, because it will take you quite a bit of elbow grease and a lot of different products sometimes to get UV DTF back off of a project you're working on. So I've gotten the second strip done, and we're going to go ahead and remove that transfer sheet. We also are going to, of course, add some decals to this, but to finish off sort of the striping around the V-split of the vinyl, I'm going to go ahead and use the Sally costume looking one of those. I didn't want to go back in with the same sort of Jack one, like with the black and white stripe, just because I felt like it was too much of the black and white, and I wanted to add a little bit of color, knowing that I was going to be putting Jack, Sally, and Zero on this for the decals. I just wanted there to be some additional color and sort of like that pop of color on the cup to just kind of break it up a little bit from the monotony of like the black and white kind of look. So we're just going to go around the bottom here. This was super easy to manipulate. So even though this is a taper, right, it's not completely straight around the bottom, I really was able to manipulate this UV DTF strip and get it to go on just like I needed it to cover that bottom section of the vinyl. Now go ahead and move on to our decals. So these little bows are so stinking cute. I mean, I feel like everybody right now is obsessed with like the little coquettes and little bows that everybody's putting on all their designs. They're just so adorable. So what I'm going to be using is I'm going to use one of the bows. I'm going to use Sally, Jack, and Zero in off of the UV DTF decal sheet that comes with this bundle. We're going to start with Sally here, and we're going to get her applied first. So I'm just going to put them kind of right in a row. I thought about going with like a saying or something too, but I kind of just like the look of the three characters in the UV DTF across the front of this, and kind of that's just how I'm gonna go. That's what I'm gonna go with. That's what I'm gonna stick with. So these, again, UV DTF, just like the striping we use. So we're just gonna place those, and we're gonna remove that transfer shape, and we're good with that first decal. And we're gonna do the same with the other two. So we'll put Jack on next. The only thing I am being mindful to do is if by chance the edge of the transfer tape is going to cover an already existing UV DTF that is on the cup, I do try and be mindful and be really careful, because sometimes your transfer tape will pull up an existing UV DTF, like rip part of it up. So just be careful and mindful, and if you can avoid layering the transfer tape back over those sections, it's best to avoid it. If you do end up, layering on top of it, just remove that UV DTF transfer tape over top really slowly, just so you don't accidentally rip the already placed UV DTF. So I'm going to go real slow with this, with the bow right in the center there, just to make sure I don't pull up any of those striping pieces that I already applied to the tumbler. So this is what we have so far. Now, something I didn't film because my phone cut off, I ran out of space, is I ended up taping off the bottom and painting the bottom of this cup black after I sealed all of the UV DTF with Mod Podge. I just liked that finished look a little bit better. It kind of almost looked like Jack's costume, how he has that very deep V of his suit and the really like tight V on his collar. It kind of just gave me that like look, almost like it was his actual costume on the actual cup. Like that was the vision I was getting. So I decided to just paint that with black acrylic paint off the bottom before we go and add our coat of epoxy here. It also covered up that, green painter's tape as well, so that was also a plus. So we're gonna go ahead and add a couple coats of epoxy here. I am using Flynn Sisters Artist Cure. I ended up going in with 20 mLs for the first coat, and I think another 20 mLs for the second and final coat, since this is all we'll need to do. All I really needed to do was those two final coats. I did sand and clean up the rim in between, but other than that, I didn't really have to do anything else because these are UV DTF, it's super smooth, so I didn't really need more than 2 coats. You can judge for yourself if you feel like you're going to need more, if you can feel your decals after your first or second coat and determine if you need to add more layers of epoxy, but for me, I only needed to add the 2 layers. So with the lid, I ended up taking it over and just spray painting that lid black. I had this Jack like silhouette face in Cricut already. I used this years ago for some masks back when we were all wearing masks. And so I just cut that out of white vinyl, and that's how we're going to decorate the lid. So we're going to kind of do like the reverse of Jack's face here with rhinestones. So I'm going to start with crystal glass rhinestones from Flynn Sister Supply Shop. I have multiple sizes here. I think I have anywhere from like SS2s to SS30s. I'm typically for this using the smaller sizes just because of the fact that these are really small sections of vinyl we're working with. Was able to get away with some of the bigger size stones in like the eyes, but obviously for the eyebrows and the mouth, I was using the smallest size for those to get them applied. So we'll do a quick speed session, and then the other color that I did for that initial circle, right, the actual face of Jack, I did black diamond rhinestones from Flynn Sister Supply Shop. I just did that in a scatter, and so I didn't film that because I think once again my camera just has been cutting off when I don't have enough space. So I ended up doing that as well. And then I let this sit and dry for 24 hours with my glue before I'm going to go in with this next step. So we're going to mix up a bit of Artist Cure epoxy, and I'm going to add a little bit of Jack, the glitter we used inside the tumbler, to add to my epoxy here. And where we have this outer divot or circle, we're going to kind of treat this like it's a, you know, like a glitter booty that we'd be working on, and we're going to fill this cavity with the resin and the Jack glitter. I thought that this would be a super cute look, a little bit different than how I normally would do these lids. And I kind of did this as an afterthought because originally I was just going to rhinestone all of the entire lid. So if I were to go back and redo this lid, I probably would do the epoxy and glitter first and then come back and add the rhinestones, just because you obviously need to be quite careful to not get epoxy on your rhinestones and stuff. So I feel like I would have done better if I had done the epoxy first, but I still was able to get it done. I did have to do a little bit of a cleanup in one area where I had gotten a little bit of overage of the epoxy on the stones, and I just cleaned that up with a bit of alcohol since it is already cured. And we're going to go ahead and spritz this with alcohol and let this sit until it's fully cured. So that took about another 12 hours or so. So we're at the next day now, and we're gonna finish up the rhinestoning process. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my 2-part epoxy Bob Smith mixed up here and ready to go. And then to kind of finish off this top, we're just doing that outer rim that is completely black here. So I'm just gonna use jet black glass rhinestones to kind of finish this off. I stuck with like these smaller sizes, not super small, but more like the SS8s and SS10s for this section, since it is kind of an oddly shaped section. You can't really get like one large stone because it has like a drop down or a divot, if that makes sense, on this area. So I just kind of took my time with this, and I just went around this entire section with those jet black rhinestones to kind of finish this off. Now I'm not going to add any rhinestones to the side of this top. You certainly could, but I did manage to seal this after I did the black spray paint with a matte spray paint. So I'm hoping that that will hold up, and it should. I might end up going back and adding a layer of UV resin over the edge just to make sure that everything, like the paint, doesn't chip later after use when this is purchased. So that might be something that I do, but it wasn't something I did for the video, full transparency here. So I ended up, just after I finished rhinestoning the top lid here with the jet black rhinestones, that was all I needed to do. I let this cure for 24 hours, and literally that's it. Here is the final look at the cup. So cute. Just another fun, unique, different design to do with your snow globes. I know snow globes can be so much fun to do, and I love doing that, but I like to try and treat each one a little bit differently, because there really are so many ways and versatile designs that you can do with these cups. So I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. Of course, if you did, be sure to give today's video a huge thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys again in the next one. Bye!